Hi, my name is Amy and today I'm going to show you how to make 3 quick and easy herbal preparations using common ingredients found in your kitchen. This is my first time making a video, as usually I'm doing in-person workshops, which I find so much easier. So please be kind in your comments and feedback. Many of you have probably heard of all different herbal recipes lately that have become popular. Elderberry syrup, fire cider, and they are popular, and I do make them. However, fire cider has a lot of ingredients in it, and they're not typically common ingredients that you have in your kitchen. It also takes 4 to 6 weeks to brew, ferment, in that the apple cider vinegar, the medium used, which you see here, takes the medicine out of the plants or food that you brew it in for 4 to 6 weeks. This is called a tincture. And the way it usually works is you typically use alcohol, but fire cider, you use the apple cider vinegar. And the alcohol, the apple cider vinegar, removes all of the nutrients and beneficial properties from the plants into the liquid medium. So even though I've made fire cider, and I find it a great recipe to have on hand, I wanted to do simple recipes with ingredients that you find in your kitchen. Lemons, garlic, raw honey, ginger, black pepper, thyme, rosemary, sage. Here we've got our raw organic apple cider vinegar, which has become very common and easy to find. I get mine at Costco, BJ's, they have it at Trader Joe's, even the regular supermarket has it. The important part is you want to look for raw, unfiltered, with the mother. That means it has probiotics in it and will do its job of pulling out the properties from the plants. The other recipe that we'll be using with the apple cider vinegar also has lavender in it. Now that might be the one ingredient that you don't have in your kitchen, but it's easy to source. I typically make this recipe with the herbs I grow outside in the backyard. So I always have them on hand and I dry extra of them. So our first 2 recipes are going to use the garlic, the honey, ginger, and lemon. And these are common ingredients that you should have, and they're very potent ingredients. When making herbal preparations, it's best to use organic and local ingredients if possible. If you can't get the Simply Organic, which they have at Stop and Shop, you can also order online. The Simply Organic you can get through Amazon, Vitacost. If you're looking to get bulk amounts of herbs, I use Star West Botanicals, Frontier Herbs, Mountain Rose Herbs. When you make your own herbal preparations, you know exactly what's in them. As many store-bought products, because now they have elderberry gummies everywhere, and everyone's buying them. But it's really not great because they have a lot of extra unnecessary ingredients in them. The biggest one is added sugar. That's not in a regular elderberry syrup recipe. And sugar actually feeds virus. It also feeds in candida. So it's really not a great option. If you're in a pinch, sure, use it. But you can make your own right here with the ingredients I'm showing you that are just as potent, just as user-friendly. And I'm going to show you some ways to modify them to make them maybe more palatable for people if you have picky eaters in your house like I do. So let's first discuss the health benefits of the ingredients we'll be using in our first 2 recipes. So first let's talk about garlic. When you're making an herbal preparation, you don't want to buy the garlic that's already peeled and loose in a jar because it doesn't have any nutrients left, and you want it to be clear, healthy clove like this. No mold, it shouldn't be sprouted. This organic garlic I got at BJ's. They sell it in a 5-pack. I also grow my own, but it never really gets this big because I always forget where I put it and don't fertilize it. So garlic is a huge powerhouse. It reduces inflammation, it fights bacteria, fungi, viruses, and parasites. It helps to keep your cardiovascular system healthy, and it even has been known to kill cancer cells. It's not just an antiviral. It kills everything that's bad for you. It's important once you peel your cloves to let the garlic sit out to activate the beneficial enzymes. I've done this here. So I've measured them out for the recipe. I've peeled them. And I actually smashed them a little bit to activate the enzymes even more. Ginger, which you'll find here, I cut it up already. I left it unpeeled because I was able to source organic ginger. So if you can't source organic ginger, you're going to need to peel it. And the best way to do this is with the back of a spoon. Ginger has the power to inhibit the development of viruses. The virus does not take over your cell and make you symptomatic. That's how powerful it is. And I use ginger a lot when I cook and when I make herbal preparations because its warming properties are also really beneficial as well. Next, we'll talk about honey. And this is some honey I have from a friend who has bees. Now, we don't all get that. So if you can just find organic honey, that's fine. It'd be best if you can get local raw honey. And there's a lot of farm stands who have it. So if you take a ride, you'll probably be able to get some. The probiotic benefits are plentiful in the raw honey, which is why you want it. These probiotic benefits are what the bees get when they feast on local plants and flowers. This is going to have all the beneficial bacteria and wild yeast to ferment properly for the recipes that we're using. And I like to keep it in a mason jar for two reasons. One, it just fits well with everything else I have in mason jars. And two, you'll see that there's measurements on the side. So it's already measured out for you for your recipe. It's also a potent anti-infection, anti-inflammatory product, and it can rival antibiotics. So whenever anyone feels sick, I always tell them to have some local honey because it has so much in it. And because your local gut bacteria is present, it will recognize the local bacteria that is in the honey. Next, we're going to use lemons. And these are some organic lemons that I have so that I can keep the skin on because the skin is the most nutritious part. They're rich in vitamin C and antioxidants, which are known as flavonoids, that play a beneficial role in fighting heart disease, cancer, and inflammation. If you buy organic, you can use the whole fruit. So I always recommend that route. Okay, so first up, this is our first recipe. It's an immune-boosting tonic recipe with antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal properties because it features lemons, garlic, honey, and ginger. It's so easy to make. This is what I had everybody make last winter when COVID first hit because it used common ingredients we all have in the house. So all it is 2 small fresh lemons, about a half a cup of fresh ginger, which I've pre-measured out here, and I cut them apart because usually ginger is in a bigger rhizome. I have a half a cup of my garlic, which you could see I've measured out here. And again, I let it sit so it activated. And a half a cup of raw honey, which I have, this is a little bit over a half a cup. So that'll work. All you do then is throw it in a food processor and it's done. And I cut the ginger up smaller because my food processor isn't so powerful. And the lemon I'll also quarter in 4 as well. And that's it. It becomes a paste, and I'll show you the finished product. So that's it, guys. It just looks like, I don't know, a really thick syrup. It's a paste. It would normally be bright yellow, but because I have a picky eater in the house, I tend to add additional fruit to it. So sometimes I'll make it whatever I have on hand, right? So mangoes, if I have that. If I have pineapple, I'll use that. I didn't have any of that today, so I used banana, which is why it's kind of brown because the bananas were going, and I wanted to use them up. So this will last in the fridge for quite a while, and the dosage for it is that you should take, as a preventative, 1 or 2 teaspoons per day. So I don't know if you could see that in the recipe. And if you start to feel sick, you would take it 1 teaspoon every 3 to 4 hours. It's very potent and it works well. You want to make sure you take it on an empty stomach. So either right before dinner, like a half hour before, at bedtime, whatever works, whenever you're going to remember to take it. That's the most important part. Just whenever you're going to remember to take it. Let's go on to the next recipe. Okay, so this is our next recipe. It's fermented honey garlic. Now, I know it doesn't sound great, but it's delicious. So all it is 2 ingredients. Garlic and honey. It's quick and easy. You can eat it almost instantaneously if you want, but I actually let it sit out on the countertop for about a month to ferment. And so what fermenting does, it increases the nutritional value. It increases the probiotics, the good bacteria that you want. And the honey will then kind of thin out, and it makes it easier to give to people who are a little bit picky, because I could put it in, some lukewarm water or add it to something else like a salad dressing, as a marinade, and they're more apt to eat it. I just eat the cloves right out of the honey because I think it's delicious. So here's the recipe for it. All it is 1 cup of whole garlic cloves and 1 cup of raw honey. And I'm going to show you what it looks like after. Okay, so we're back. So this is a cup of garlic, which was about 4 heads of garlic. 4 heads of garlic. And we've got what herbalists like to call liquid gold, which is our raw honey. It's delicious already. I had some honey because it dripped out. So this recipe was so simple. 2 ingredients. You can easily do that. So let me know if you want a copy of these recipes and I'll send them to you. Now on to our third and last recipe. Just a side note, so this can get a little messy sometimes as the garlic and the honey ferment. Sometimes the honey will rise up and come out of the container. So I keep this in the dark part of my kitchen where there's not a lot of light, and I put a plate under it. You also need to make sure you have a cover on it. So I use the plastic mason jar covers because the metal corrodes with vinegar, and also it just gets really messy with the honey. So you don't want fruit flies or anything getting into this. You want to leave the cap on loose so it can still bubble up and the gases can escape. And you can, move it around to saturate it more. I'm going to keep this on the counter for a month, but you can use it immediately after a few days or right away. But I find the flavors are a lot better. The garlic will mellow and the honey will become thinner. This person who created this recipe also has a honey cranberry recipe. So if the savory is not for you, you can do the sweet. And I've done that recipe as well, and the cranberries kind of burst in your mouth once they're fermented. It's a great flavor as well. And cranberries are high in vitamin C too. But I like the garlic one, so that's the one that I typically make. Okay, now we'll go on to our third recipe. Okay, third and last recipe. Thanks for sticking along with me, as this workshop is going a little bit faster than I would normally do in person, because in person I'd be demonstrating how to do everything. But because I didn't want to make it so long, I figured I could make everything in advance and then show you what it looks like. So, last recipe, 4 Thieves Vinegar is very famous. It has a lot of history about it. It was used during the bubonic plague by those who would rob the corpses. So they would use rosemary, sage, thyme, lavender, and black pepper on themselves so they did not catch the plague and inside their face coverings. And none of those thieves got sick. It also was used even before that. So people have been using plants as medicine for thousands of years. In our society, we've gotten away from that, and I think it's caused a real problem. But anyway, enough about that. Ingredients in this recipe are 1 tablespoon organic sage. Okay, so here we go. 1 teaspoon of dried organic lavender flowers. 1 teaspoon of dried organic rosemary. And 1/2 teaspoon of dried organic thyme. We also add half a teaspoon of black peppercorns and 16 ounces of raw organic apple cider vinegar. So the way I typically make things is in a mason jar, but there's been a shortage of mason jars. So I like to make a lot of this because I give it away to people for Christmas and, just before cold and flu season. So they actually have something that's natural and potent to use. This recipe can be used in a ton of different ways. You could use it as a marinade. You could use it to clean, actually. I haven't done that. You can use it as medicine. You can use it as salad dressing. So this is the finished product of what I made. So I put it in a huge container. And I use the bulk herbs that I grew on the property this year. So mine are not diced. They're kind of just thrown in there because I tend to sometimes be a lazy herbalist. So in case you can't or don't have these ingredients, the spices, I thought of a quick fix. Italian seasoning. Most people have that in their cupboard, and it has all of the ingredients that you need. It has your oregano, it has thyme, it has rosemary, and it has sage. It also has marjoram and basil, so you get even more potency and medicine in it. And that's if you don't want to use the lavender, you can't find the lavender. It doesn't give a strong floral taste because everything else is pretty strong, but, to each his own. So I wanted to add that as a quick hack. Let's talk about the ingredients that are used. So again, our organic, raw, and unfiltered apple cider vinegar. It helps to break up and reduce mucus in your body. It helps to clear your sinuses. It also has antibacterial properties, making it useful for infections and sore throats. It's beneficial for liver detoxification and lymph cleansing. So I use a lot of apple cider vinegar. I buy it in bulk because I go through it so fast. But you can get a smaller bottle at Trader Joe's, and also Bragg's is found at the local supermarket. Sage, which has been called the savior because it was one of the primary ingredients in Thieves Vinegar. Today, sage is known for its high antioxidant capacity and many health benefits. It's great for coughs. Okay, so you can gargle with this if you have a cough. Hot water, add a teaspoon of sage to it and gargle with it. Lavender. It's rich in esters. Those are aromatic molecules, you know why it smells pretty, that contain antispasmodic, calming, and stimulating properties, which is why we use lavender essential oil, lavender tea for anxious people, people that want to relax. In aromatherapy, lavender is used commonly. But it's also antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal. It will improve blood circulation and helps with respiratory conditions. So this would be great for respiratory stuff, which is what we've been experiencing a lot of with COVID. Thyme, here's our thyme, is rich in antioxidants, it's high in vitamin C, and it's also great for respiratory conditions, nausea, and fatigue. Rosemary helps to improve circulatory and immune systems. It has a lot of antibacterial properties, and it's great for the mind as we use it to focus. When kids are trying to study, we'll diffuse rosemary. And then finally, black pepper, which helps to increase the bioavailability. So it helps to increase the strength and the absorption factor of these herbs into your body. So black pepper is commonly used in a lot of herbal preparations for that reason. It's it kind of is the driver. So it drives the other properties, makes them more easily accepted by the body. So that's it. That's all that's in Thieves Vinegar. It's really easy. The thing is, you want to be mindful because apple cider vinegar tends to draw the fruit flies. So I've been battling fruit flies. And you don't want them to be able to get into your tincture, right? So if you're using a mason jar, you put the top on. But if you're using a metal lid, it will get corroded by the vinegar. And you want to make sure that all of the herbs sit below the apple cider vinegar, because if they don't, they will mold, and then you need to throw it out. I don't play around with molds. I know some people do. I don't. If there's something with mold in it, I throw it right into the compost because I'm not messing around. So I use thick cloth napkins. Paper towels will not be thick enough. Okay, so if you're using a big container like this, you need to have a cloth napkin because they cannot penetrate that. And as you'll see, I also put a paper towel around the spout. That always seems to work. They don't get in that way. They more likely go to the top, which is why I use the cloth napkin. But if you're using a glass jar, try to get one with a plastic top, because if you're going to use the metal, you want to put paper towel underneath the metal so it doesn't corrode. And that's it, guys. Those are our 3 recipes. So if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them here. You can email me, and I'll be sure to help you out. Thanks. Have a great one.